Hello, everyone. We're going to do a pretty simple comparison, right? We've done an overview of One Screen Central, which is a bit of a deeper dive into the Radix style management console. And we'll do another video that's a deeper dive into the Bytello management console. But you could also go watch a lot of ClearTouch videos about their command management console because it's effectively the same or very similar. First, a little background on these two management consoles. Radix is pretty well known in especially the Android management community. You actually can manage Android, Windows, and Apple devices through Radix if you want to. I'd say they're really well known for just managing really Android devices. And as a plus, and one of the first differentiators, you can manage additional Android devices or Windows devices through Radix if you want. I think that's part of what makes it actually a little more complicated to navigate. And then with Bytello, you really just manage interactive flat panels, and you can manage more than one kind of interactive flat panel, which that's pretty great, I think. But it really is just designed for interactive flat panels, and that's kind of it. Both of them, you kind of start on this dashboard, and then you have to go down to your devices. And again, we're not going to do a comprehensive overview. We're really just going to look at some of the differences between them. Let's start with Radix. Like I said already, Radix can manage more than one kind of device. With Radix, there's usually three ways to do the same thing. I think this is what sometimes is a little confusing for people. If I click on this device, I have options across the top. I can do a lot of different, settings. I can do device settings. I can push policies. A lot of this, the management console is really just sending commands, although there are some live things you can do as well where you can, look at the screen and take control of the screen. So there's commands up here. There's also this little drop down that gives me all the same options, a lot of the same options, or I can actually click into the panel, opens up a little bit of a dashboard. Looks like I have had a couple, some connectivity issues a little bit, but you can see it's connected. Here I can remote in, I can, apply a lot of the same, changes and policies and things. I can manage a lot of things. Let me show you one of the things right here, and I know we're jumping right into it, but one of the really nice things about Radix is enrollment and reauthorization of enrollment. So once it's got your serial number of your device and it's loaded up in there, and if you're doing an enrollment and you provide your manufacturer the serial numbers of your devices, they can actually remotely enroll all the devices for you into Radix. And once they're in there, they're really kind of in there as long as you can get them, back on the Wi-Fi. You have the option, similarly to Bytello, to just actually go and download the MDM agent, the APK file on the panel itself. But going panel by panel, when you have the option through Radix to just do a remote installation, that's way better. And then, like I was just beginning to show you, let's say you go ahead and update the software, or you do a firmware update, or just something like that, and it basically loses its connection to the management console. You can actually send a reauthorization token, which is great. It'll basically just reconnect the panel for you without you having to go out to the panel. So long as, again, the panel is put back on Wi-Fi and connected, and you can identify it on the network. So let's kind of pause there. Those are two big pluses for Radix: remote enrollment and reauthorization tokens. We got some more pluses for Radix, but let's go over to Bytello. I think with Bytello, one of the first things you notice is once you kind of get into your device, the interface is a little more intuitive, a little more customer friendly. It actually gives you a quick little preview of the screen. I think that's cool. You can jump right into screen control or even see a real-time screen. That's pretty cool. With Radix, I think to really see the screen, you have to jump into a remote control session. Telling it commands, I mean, just notice there's more commands here than is obvious. And there are more settings that you can change, and commands you can push, and policies you can enforce. But there's just a really simple management console option here, which is really nice. Now, when you get into advanced and you want to actually create a profile and send a bunch of different stuff, bunch of different settings, you can totally do that. But, just looking at the device at face value and being able to just send a handful of commands, texts, pictures, videos, I mean, that's pretty nice. You have that option, right? One of the things that I'm going to give Bytello some kudos for is the ability to send multimedia. And I'll show you how this is different with Radix here in just a minute. But if I send, a of just a flyer or even a video. And again, this is something very cool Bytello can do that at least currently Radix cannot. You can send videos to the panel. Every time I want to send something, I do have to give it a time stamp, which is like a little funny, how long you want it to be up there, or do you want to schedule it, or do you want to play it on a loop, things like that. But I'm going to just send this to the panel real quick so you can see. Notice how even though it's not exactly the right, aspect ratio resolution, it automatically adjusts the image and puts it up here, and it looks really good. With Radix, it doesn't do that, quite as well. And again, it's a little more complicated. So what I want to do is I want to send, I can either send a basic message, by the way. I mean, both of them have the ability to send basic text messages. We're not going to go into all the features, all the things that they can both do. You can do a lot of the same things, simple messages, complicated messages, things like that. Actually, this is probably pretty good. For instance here, right when I tried to send that, there was a little bit of a connectivity issue. So you can actually see it didn't send. It says it's pending. So if I want to, I can go over to commands. And again, this is where maybe Radix is a little more intuitive in the sense of it just has the commands button here. You can go through, and for some reason it didn't send that, right? Maybe it lost connection from the internet for a hot second. I can resend the command from here, and it'll tell me whether or not it was sent successfully or not, right? Again, this is not supposed to be part of the video demonstration, but for whatever reason, the messages are not sending. But normally that does work. Of course, this is going to happen on the demo that I'm recording. But again, it just sort of happens sometimes. Like I said, lots of different actions, lots of things you can do. You can send advanced messaging, and even with pictures, right? So here's a hello message from me. I can give it a name. I can give it a description. I can put content in there. I can add an image. I can even add audio. This is kind of a cool Radix feature. Even though I can't send video per se, I can send a picture and I can send audio. Now with Bytello, if I wanted to do that, I would probably just go ahead and send a video or something like that, right? But notice how the image looks here. And I'm going to go ahead and tell it to send it to the panel. So again, it's one more step. I have to actually hit apply on the policy. And notice how it does kind of stretch the picture out, right? It does not very flattering for me. Again, this is one of those kind of just funny things. I don't think it's a really big deal per se, but you have to have the right aspect ratio or resolution, whatever you want to call it, on your pictures before you send them over. It's going to stretch them on the screen. Not the end of the world, but again, an impressive feature of Bytello is when I want to send multimedia, I can even send a video, right? As long as I've got it formatted properly, it's an MP4. I can go ahead and send it over. So we'll do that now.
Hey everyone, this is Principal Charlie, just reminding you that we are going to have an emergency notification that'll come out today around noon. So don't be alarmed when you see that notification. We're just testing the system. Thanks so much.
And there you go. So, we kind of covered a couple of things quickly. Let me re-summarize. So Bytello will adapt your picture and send it over with the right aspect ratio, whatever it was supposed to be. You can send video, which is great. With Radix, I can send audio and I can send pictures. You have to, kind of do your own work to make sure the pictures come across properly. They can both send messages, notifications, things like that. I'd say again, Bytello a little more user-friendly in terms of, navigating around the panel, but they both give you lots of great information about the panel. You can remotely adjust volume and brightness and Wi-Fi settings. Both of them, you can really do that stuff. So I don't want to say either one of them is not robust or user-friendly. They're just different, right? There's a lot of stuff we're not going to get into here along the sides. Let me just get into a few more differences. Again, we're just trying to create this video to be helpful for you as a school decision maker or IT director to figure out which one of these is right for you. I'd say there's one very critical difference between these two that I have kind of spoken with manufacturers about. I would expect maybe some updates will come to the software here pretty soon. But one of these can block apps and not websites, and the other can block websites and not apps. Oh, my message finally came through. I don't know if you saw that, but this pending message, actually a number of messages that had failed previously on the one screen Radix did finally come through, right? So that's good. And again, that was just a funny bonus. I didn't mean for that to happen, but some of those messages that were pending, actually even from earlier, just all came through when it could recognize the panel and send them. All right, so like I said, one of these can block websites but not apps. One of these can block apps but not websites. How funny is that? So let's go ahead and look at what Bytello can do. And this is actually in their profile management. So I have a generic profile set up. If I go in here, again, there's so many different things I can do and not do. And this is very similar. You can set up profiles, you can set up tags with both of these and apply those profiles to the panels. Let's just go ahead and look at URL restriction, right? And I'm going to edit the URL restriction. Currently, there's no websites that are blocked through Bytello. So I'm going to go ahead and, pull up the browser, and I'm going to go to Facebook, right? So there we are right there. So we're on Facebook. We can log into Facebook. We have access to it. Somehow, it's gotten through the spam filter or whatever web filter you have up already. So if I want to, I can actually add Facebook here, and it will block the URL. Now I do have to push this profile to a panel, right? And there's lots of other device settings and things we're not touching. From here, I can associate the general profile we're looking at with the panel. Or again, if I just go back to all the profiles, from here I can associate it. And let's go ahead and associate it with the OneScreen T7. And then let's go ahead and try to get access to Facebook again. I don't think it'll bring it up automatically. So let's look for Facebook, go to the page. Look at that. We cannot get access to Facebook anymore. So again, very cool that you can do this through Bytello. Kudos to those guys that figured out how to block websites. Now, when it comes to apps, it's a little different, right? So when it comes to apps, there's app installation and then there's app management, right? So when it comes to app management, there's the apps that kind of come with the panel, and then there's third-party apps, right? Now, again, I'll show you here within the profile, you can do some app management. And I'm going to edit this here because I want to go ahead and have an app disabled, right? So I can, pick whichever one of these apps I want to disable. I think for illustrative purposes, we're going to do Simply Piano. So let's get off our browser here. And I'm going to actually drag Simply Piano over to our other screen just so we can see what's kind of going on with it. So here you can see it's on. We're going to hit add. We want to go ahead and block this, save and sync. Now, because I don't know if you saw that, how quickly it happened, because this profile has already been assigned to this panel, I just hit save and sync and it automatically took the app off. Now, while that's impressive, it's not permanent, which is, kind of a bummer. So we're going to go ahead and look up piano apps. There's our piano app. I'm a teacher. I noticed that you took off my piano app. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to hit this enable button, and now I can reopen the app right back up, right? So again, this is where, as an IT director, is it great that Bytello can block websites? Yes. Can it block apps? Not quite. It can disable them. It doesn't seem to permanently block them, right? Now, OneScreen Central, let me show you the exact opposite. If you go into OneScreen Central, what you'll actually find is there are commands that you can send to block, right? So you can do some policies. Some of these policies include blocking URLs, right? So, and we actually show you a little bit of this on our OneScreen Central walkthrough, right? But I can have a URL block list. But the problem is it doesn't really work inside of the browsers like Chrome, or oftentimes these panels actually come with their own browser. It would work exclusively within an Android browser, but most people are using different browsers like Chrome. So even though there is a policy here to block websites, it cannot fully block the website, which is a little frustrating. And I could show you how that works or doesn't work specifically, but let's just kind of assume it's not going to work. Now, I went ahead and put a policy in place. And again, you have to kind of create these from scratch. I put in a policy, and the policy is already called block piano. And I want it to go ahead and block Simply Piano, right? Now, this policy is not enforced, which is why Simply Piano is, already working. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on this policy, and I'm going to apply this policy to the panel. And there's Simply Piano back on the screen. But now I'm going to block it. I'm going to hit apply. So similarly to what happened with Bytello, is it takes it off the screen. So it's been taken off the screen. And similarly to Bytello, I can go find it in the Play Store. Now, notice this time it doesn't say uninstall or enable. This time it says install. And we'll have to wait a couple seconds here because what it will actually do is go through and try to install the app. Once it gets all the way through the installation process, it'll reach 100%. It'll say installing, and then it will say canceled. So if you can pay attention to the screen, installing, canceled, boom, right back here. So Radix is able to block apps, right? But unfortunately, unless you're exclusively using an Android browser, which would be pretty rare for most of these panels, you cannot block websites. So again, strengths and weaknesses within both these management platforms. The last thing I want to talk about, and if you've been with me this whole time, thank you so much, is a Radix advantage. And again, Radix has a lot of pretty intricate settings, details, things you can kind of dig into if you're a super geek. If you're a super Android geek or panel geek, I will say Radix is definitely more robust. But for 99% of what you're going to do within a school district, we're kind of covering the big things here. There is what's called workflows within Radix. Workflows are pretty cool. Workflows are exactly what it says here, a combination of commands, right? And we can even look at some examples that they have here, right? So I want you to install a package, send a message, open a setting, right? Change settings, things like that. This is where you might want something like a series of commands, and you can even set them with delays between them, right? Um, so you can send a command, and then you can send another command, then you can have a delay, then you can send a specific notification. Now, you can do a lot of the same things if you set up a profile within Bytello, right? But it's not sequential, right? So whatever you set up in a Bytello profile, it's going to push everything all at once. And there are some instances, we won't go into the weeds too deep, but there are some instances where it actually really makes sense to send a series of commands with delays in between, and then different messages, notifications to, teachers or users, hey, this is what we're doing, and then be able to push that out to as many panels as you want or as many panels as you don't want. So I think the workflows is a pretty cool advantage there of Radix. And then just to summarize, since I think we've gone through everything, remote enrollment with Radix, super helpful so you don't have to go panel by panel. And then if it loses its connection, you don't have to reauthorize it from the panel. You can reauthorize it as long as it's on the same network from the management console. That is super helpful because more often than I want to admit, these things do lose their connectivity back to the management console. You can block apps from Radix. You cannot necessarily block websites, which is a bummer. And you can manage additional devices outside of Android devices. I think those are the main things about Radix that are great. Bytello, you can send media, video, and even pictures are a lot easier to send because it'll fix any aspect ratios. You can block websites. That's awesome. That's a cool feature. But again, you could probably do that through a web filter you have in place already. It's easy to navigate, right? And you can disable apps, certainly, but it seems as if they're pretty easy to re-enable. So those are the main ones, guys. If you've followed me this whole time, you've just really gotten a deep dive on the differences between these two management consoles. They are available through most of the manufacturers that are out there making product right now in North America for K-12 schools. Some manufacturers are really not talking about Bytello, though. And I totally get that. Then there's the folks at ClearTouch. This is pretty much the management console they put out there with all their devices. Most leaning to Radix. Radix has been around a long time. It's pretty well established. It's trusted, and it is, I think, a little more robust. So I think there's advantages there, but I think cost-wise, I will say this: Bytello is significantly less expensive, even for your manufacturer to sell to you, and that's why you will see some of them actually offering it for free with their panels. There is a cost there associated for them, but they will basically pay for that cost. Or others will offer it at a significantly discounted price to giving you the Radix licenses. But again, even some panel manufacturers will give you 1 year, 3 year, 5 years of Radix for free when you buy their panel. But it's just a question you should probably ask your panel manufacturer or your reseller, hey, which management console are you selling your panels with? And can you explain to me why you're doing that one, and do I have options, right? Because more people have options than they realize. Hey, I hope you've appreciated this. This is Charlie with Advent Tech. We love ed tech, and our motto is we educate, we sell tech, because we're trying to just make you the most informed ed tech buyer out there. Have a good one.